Would you say that a trans woman is a woman?
Well, absolutely.
What is a woman?
Well, it's interesting, isn't it?
This sounds... I'll just be honest with you, because I think you appreciate honesty. This sounds mental.
Being transgender is most definitely not a mental illness, whereas having anorexia is a mental illness. So
But why?
Why?
Why is one a mental illness and not the other?
Well, it's just so offensive to say that transgender people think there's something wrong with their body because they are mentally ill. It's just
I think it's offensive to say that there's something wrong with their body. What a thing to tell
it's
people.
them.
It's either their body or their mind. Which one?
That person that hypothetical person you just talked about wasn't born a man.
But you say sex and gender are different. So if we're just talking about sex, they were a boy.
And you're right, it is tricky. And actually
I don't think it is. That's simple.
Well, being gay is not a mental illness.
But you accept that they're two different things, being gay and being trans.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
To
Do
identify-
transgender people exist? Are they real? Can it be?
People who are confused about their sex exist, absolutely. But I could identify as a table.
Well, a table's not an identity.
Why not?
And she wanted to now start taking some female hormones to transition to her body more like her soul.
This is not really science to a lot of people.
Basically, they're saying you can't be born a man, but actually be a woman.
No, of course not.
But
I know it's annoying when creators ask you to subscribe, but since I started, the channel's grown 10 times faster. If you don't sub, YouTube probably won't show you the next episode. It's free and takes 2 seconds. Hit subscribe. So tell me a little for those who don't know about your background. You're a doctor. You set up Gender GP. What is that, and what led you into that?
Okay, yeah. So I'm just a woman, a doctor, a mum, and I was a GP in South Wales, just trundling along, bringing up my family, doing what doctors do, saving lives every day. Well, not really, but and then in 2015, a trans woman walked into my surgery and said, "Can you help me?" And I was like, well, I quite like helping people, but where's the book? I didn't get taught this at medical school. And so she wanted to transition. So she was born a man, if you like. She'd lived a man all her life. And she wanted to now start taking some female hormones to transition to become her body more like her soul, if you like. And I'm like, wow, that's weird. I've never heard of that before. Never got taught it, never came across it. And so I said, well, I'll look it up. So basically, I looked it up, and what she would have to do is go down to the gender clinic in London. Now, we were in South Wales in the valleys. She's never been outside the valleys, never mind to London wearing a dress on the train to the gender clinic. And so that was just going to be impossible for her. So I said, well, okay, I'll do it. I'll help you. And so it took me on a journey of discovery of what it means to be transgender and what it means to go through transitioning medically, surgically, legally, and what have you. And as I was discovering and learning myself, what I realized was that it's not easy. It's not an easy place for transgender people in this world at the moment. And this was 10 years ago, mind. And as I was learning and realizing, I set up a website called Gender GP because it was about gender, and I'm a GP. Thought it was pretty cool. And it just took off. People just started coming to my website. You know, when you like make a website, you think it's going to be at the bottom of Google and no one's ever going to go there. And like people were coming to my website, and I was like, oh, I didn't really expect that. It was just like something I wanted to play with, you know. And before I knew it, people were emailing me saying, well, listen, you're a doctor. I'm transgender. I can't get the help I need in the UK. Can you help me? And I'm like, okay, I'll give it a go. And so Gender GP was born. And I just thought it would be a kind of temporary thing because it was around that time that visibility was starting to really increase for trans people. We had some celebrities who were coming out as trans. Visibility was increasing. And I just thought this would be a quick stopgap while the world catches up. I didn't realise that like 10 years later, we'd be in such a worse position for trans people. So that's kind of how it all started, really.
That's interesting. And you often, I think what people like about you is that you come on and you'll debate the other side, because a lot of people at least the image we have of people on the side, the progressive side, let's call it, of this debate, we feel they won't even have a conversation with us. They say, oh no, you're all Nazis and bigots and transphobes. And it's very rare. I mean, the only other time I've had someone who I could speak with was Peter Tatchell, who was great. And we had this really interesting chat. And so what do you think it is about you that led you to be open to having the conversations that many on maybe your side would not?
It's difficult, isn't it? Because I think I wasn't taught about this as a child. I never came across it as a child. I never came across it in school or in university, at medical school. In my junior doctor years, I never came across it. We did a little bit of role play in the early 90s, and there was one of our characters was a trans person, but it didn't, that was about it, really. And I think that's what the world has grown up with. I don't think the world understands gender diversity. And I used to say, why didn't they come out with the gay people? Why did the LGBT guys? Why didn't you come out with when the gay people came out in the 70s and 80s? And all of a sudden, gay people said, "Stop! We're not putting up with this anymore. We're here. We're loud. We're proud." And I just wish the trans people had done that with them, but they didn't. They stayed a little bit hidden. So many of us have grown up not knowing what it actually means. And I think one of the tragic things for me is, when we think about a trans woman, we think about that person over there in the street looking like a man but wearing a dress. And it's been allowed to be mocked and, teased and unkindly treated, and it still is today. Just because we just didn't know, that the education wasn't there. And when you don't know about something, it makes you scared. And when you're scared about something, you panic and be mean. And it's just about the lack of knowledge and education, I think. And I didn't actually answer your question, but why me? Because I'm passionate about equality. I don't like people being mean to other people. I think I love human diversity. We were walking down the street this weekend, and you look at everybody. Everybody's different. It's not like you go, oh, that looks like my friend Sarah, or that looks like my friend Jim. Everybody is completely different, and that's human diversity. Just because some people might be a bit different in a different way, that doesn't mean we can be mean to them.
No. Well, I would agree with that. I mean, look, you are aware of a bit of my show, or you're not. It's okay if you're not. Do you know? Yeah. So,
Sure,
and where my stance on it, I'm gender real. I would say realist. Maybe you would say gender critical or transfer. I don't know what you might say, but never mocking. I don't think, unless in a sort of silly, come on, way that invites them to laugh as well, maybe, I think, but not that kind of like, look at that man in a dress thing.
We don't want meanness.
No,
we can have curiosity and finding out about it, but meanness I don't get.
So I guess, we have to look at where we might disagree, and I guess to do that I need to understand what your belief is. So when a man can be, forgive me for asking the cliche, which everybody always asks, but a man says he is a woman. What is a woman? Well,
it's interesting, isn't it? So what is a woman? What is a man? It's one of those kind of cool questions that everybody asks, because it's going to trip me up. It's like, well, what is a woman? Well, it's just a woman. I'm a woman. I was in a clinic in 2015, and I had a young trans boy. So that boy was born a girl, apparently, but actually identified as a little boy. And I was learning. So I was learning as I went along. And I said to this little boy, and he was 11, and I said, what I need to know is, though, what makes you a boy? What is it that you think that makes you a boy and not a girl? And he struggled to explain it, because how do you explain it? It's like, I just am, or I feel it. All those words don't count. And I was like, but I need to know, because I need to understand this. And then he went, Dr. Webberley, what makes you a woman? And I'm like, well, I just know. And it's not because I look down there at, or, whatever is at top or bottom. That's not what makes me a woman. I'm just a woman. And so people will say, oh, well, it's your chromosomes, it's your genitals, it's your reproductive system.
Gametes.
But that doesn't make somebody a woman. They're different. And I know that that's difficult to understand, because the majority of people who have a womb as a reproductive system, if you like, identify as women. And that's what we're kind of conditioned to see and think. So it's difficult to try and unpick that, but it's true.
What it sounds like to me, and forgive me if I'm getting this wrong.
Sure.
I'm trying to work it out. It sounds like you're saying there are really lots of things that make someone a woman, lots of things that make someone a man, and these are societal to an extent. Some of it's biological, some of it's societal inventions and things like that. That's maybe the Judith Butler argument, right? And
sure.
if that's the case, would it not be easier to use different language and just say, hang on, well, this is a guy who acts stereotypically in an effeminate manner. Would that not just be clearer? Ever been in a meeting or call where you're trying to listen, but your brain's just busy writing everything down? That's over. That's why I've partnered with Plord. This is the Plord Note. Basically, the world's smartest meeting secretary, slim enough to hide in your wallet. It can capture, transcribes, and summarizes every conversation or meeting so you can stay present and never miss a word. And if you want to go hands-free, there's Note Pin, a wearable version you just clip on and tap to start. It doesn't just transcribe, it understands. Powered by GPT-4o and Claude AI, it instantly turns hours of talk into structured notes, key decisions, action points, insights, even recognizes different voices automatically. And it doesn't just take note, it finds answers across all of your content, builds action items for your whole team, and can even brainstorm and get tasks done for you. Whether you're a manager, lawyer, or anyone who wants to improve their work efficiency, Plord frees you from note-taking so you can focus on what actually matters. With 30 hours of recording time, 64 gigabytes of storage, it's built for real work, no battery anxiety, no app crashes, no interruption from incoming calls. Think of it as a second brain, one that never forgets. The Plord Note and Note Pin are already selling out fast, so grab yours with the link below before they're gone.
But if you ask that person, I mean, we might find that easier to explain. So, we go, okay, we're settled. We won't call him a woman. We'll call him a guy that's effeminate. And that guy who's effeminate will be like, thanks for that. Actually, I'm a woman. So it's all right. So it's like, whose label are we making it for? Is it for our comfort or the comfort of the person who is gender diverse?
I guess this argument about the comfort for the person. So I see that what you were saying about it was a time when there wasn't enough information about gender issues, which are real issues that we face. Even we might disagree what they actually are and what the root cause is, but it's a real issue and it's a real struggle for the people going through those things. And you were then in a position where you were able to help, and that must have given you a fantastic feeling. And we like to help, but you're also, I'm sure, and I'm sure you implement this in your life, familiar with the concept of sometimes being cruel to be kind, for example. Right, somebody comes in and says who's anorexic, and they say I'm so skinny. You go, sorry, they say I'm so fat, and you go, no, you're not, because if I, in the moment I want to help. It's a lovely thing. I want to help you and just agree with you, but in so doing, we're not necessarily helping, because I'm hearing from you a lot of comfort. I want to give them comfort and make them feel better, and I'm not sure. Sometimes don't we have to just be honest with people and say, I'm sorry. Well, I know you want to feel like a woman, but you are actually just an effeminate man.
Well, it boils back to, we could come back to that anorexia thing if you like, because it's something that people bring up and it is interesting. But it comes back to, do we believe that gender incongruence exists or not? So that's the fundamental question. Is it possible that somebody was, and to use the kind of correct language, assigned male at birth, but actually identifies as female? So do we believe that or not? And I think that's the struggle at the moment.
Well, identifies,
So do transgender people exist? Are they real? Can it be?
People who are, in my opinion, confused about their sex exist, absolutely. But I could identify as a table.
Well, a table's not an identity.
Why not?
A table is an inanimate object. It's
I
not
could identify as black.
Well, you can't. Black is a colour. It's not an identity. It's a colour.
But I might have some black ancestry.
You may do, yeah, but you're not. You're white skin. So,
but sex is also not an identity. It's a
sex isn't. Sex is biological, chromosomal.
So again, I feel like we agree then. So sex is different to gender then. I mean, I would just say we don't need either words. I'm not. But if people want to say, okay, this is how this person feels, and we're going to start using the word gender for that, because my understanding was we started using the word gender because people felt a bit funny about saying the word sex. They don't like saying that, so they use gender. So it's just a synonym for sex. Yeah. But okay, I'm willing to sort of go, let's use gender as someone's personality or their identity. That's how it's a totally different thing. Yeah. Why are we then changing their physical anatomy, which is their sex? Why are we performing operations that are long-lasting and potentially very damaging if it's just their identity and their gender?
Well, it's You see, we use those words like long-lasting and potentially damaging because that's our perception. Because I'm presuming, I don't know, I've never asked you, but I presume you and I would never want to have our genitals changed. I don't, personally. No. And so it's easy for us to look on the outside and say, oh my goodness, that's very long-lasting and potentially very damaging. But the person who's asking to have that done doesn't see it like that at all. They're like, oh my goodness, please let this be long lasting. And not damaging at all, life-saving, because, and I'm on this camp, if I had a willy, am I allowed to say that in here?
Willy, yes.
If I had a willy, I would absolutely hate it, and I would be like, it would be like having 6 fingers. Or
would you do it for the day if like a hypothetical sci-fi experiment? Like
have a willy for the day?
Yeah, that you can be a man for the day.
Well, I often say to my husband, like, if I had a willy, I'd play with it all day too, because that's what I see men do. But I would hate to have a willy. I would really hate it. And the other things, those dangly things. Yeah. No, thank you. Yeah. And I think that's what most women feel. And so if we understand that women and if the gender identity, not the biological chromosome anatomy thing, they don't like having a testicle and penis. It just doesn't feel right. So when you say to them, there's an operation that's long lasting and we'll get rid of it and make you a new vagina, they are like, eugh. But other people are like, oh my God, I can't imagine it.
Yeah. Can you see why someone might say, if someone's coming in and saying, listen, this thing on me, I want it off, my body thing, that a lot of people would say that's a mental illness. You've got a mental illness.
Well, I mean, if I had a willy, I'd definitely want it cut off, and I'm not mentally ill, so I don't see it.
You're a woman.
Yeah, but
if you're a woman with a willy, I would understand that, and I would say you're not mentally ill. You've unfortunately grown a secondary sex characteristic that is incongruent with your gametes. Yeah. Let's chop the thing off. Yeah. But were you a man, I think you might be quite happy with your willy.
But they were never a man, and that's going back to that very question: do transgender people exist or not? And if we accept that they do, and actually, we don't have to accept that they do, but it's pretty certain that they do because we've actually even made laws to protect them. We have Gender Recognition Act and we have the Equality Act. It's a listed characteristic. So we've already said, us as a civilized society, that transgender people exist. And that means that that hypothetical person you just talked about wasn't born a man. They were labelled as little boy when they were born, but they didn't know but actually...
But you say sex and gender are different. So if we're just talking about sex, which I think we know 99.9% of people are talking about, why do we then say they were assigned, we know as their sex was they were a boy? You can say they might inside have had some identity that later, when they were old enough to think about it, they decided they wished they had been born their sex as a girl. But they were born as you say, sex is different gender. They were born as boys.
Yeah, and you're right. It is tricky. And actually,
I don't think it is. That's simple.
Well, okay, but the world thinks at the moment in this current state, there's a lot of the world think it's tricky. And when the Equality Act was written, for example, they included sex and gender identity, and that's what's caused the recent problem. So we got those words right. Does gender actually exist? And is Judith correct? Is it just that socially constructed thing that we made? And if we went back to, I don't know how many hundreds of years ago, would we make the same mistake again and say women on this side and men on that side? Maybe we wouldn't.
Well, I think that touched on another point. And I know that every point I make, you've heard 1,000 times before. I'm not going to come in with anything novel ever in any episode of Heretics I do, but I will try. And that's the other point of a lot of people consider this to be not just misogynistic, but also quite old hat, quite conservative, this idea of perpetuating gender stereotypes. Who cares if a boy wants to play with Barbies? Who cares if a girl wants to be a mathematician or something? Aren't we supposed to be moving towards a progressive world where those things don't matter anymore?
I would love that. I would love it if somebody was born with a penis and was, but identified as on the girl side, if you like, but was happy with her body. I'd love that. But at the moment, society we live in at the moment, if you look like a man but want to live as a woman, you are shunned, excluded, mocked, teased, hurt, and that's the difficulty at the moment. So I'd love a situation where we didn't give all these people labels and we just lived happily and everyone lived together, and it didn't matter if you were a woman with a willy. It doesn't matter. But we're not there yet.
Woman see, when you say woman with a willy, do you mean biologically a woman who's had a willy put on?
No.
You mean
I mean a transgender woman.
So a man has sex, so they have a willy, they're just a man.
Well, a man isn't sex, so a male chromosome, if you like, the XY chromosome pattern.
So to me, this sounds, I'll just be honest with you, because I think you appreciate honesty. This sounds mental. But look, I'm an atheist as well. Are you spiritual, religious, or any of those things? Because you started by talking about a soul as well. So you can see why maybe you can see why someone who's secular like me and believes in science and scientific practices and so on, to hear someone come in, a doctor, and start with someone's body and it's their soul, and that's what people say. There's the sort of the gendered soul inside them. This is not really science to a lot of people.
Well, we don't understand, do we? Doctors are very good at understanding the body, the heart, the lungs, the liver. We're not very good at understanding the brain. But actually how someone, why is that person more creative? Why is that person more scientific? Some of it is a little bit of nurture, but most of it, you can't make someone who just doesn't get maths. It's really hard to make them get maths, or someone like me who I could do maths with my eyes shut and willy and upside down. I love maths, but you can't make that. So what is it? Why is it some people are so theatrical and so confident? Some of it will be the way they were brought up, and some of it is just inside them. And we don't understand enough of that. We don't understand. And that's what I mean by the soul, the person inside, the bit that we don't really understand a lot.
And these are all really interesting ideas. And they're ideas that we could sit with a drink and discuss Judith Butler and discuss all of these people and say, gosh, we don't know, do we? As you said, we don't know to what extent over 300,000 years our biological evolution has led us one particular way. Perhaps men and women are different because of that. Maybe there's this physical difference that's all that's important. Perhaps there's a societal invention that which I don't really believe, because it's happened in too many different cultures. So I'm not on the Butler side, but I'm open to discussing it. These are fun, but as you say, we don't know. So to then make what I would consider to be drastic and draconian measures, such as life-altering surgery on young people, sometimes children it's happened on as well, teenagers, I should say. And that's only one side, of course. The other side being allowing then men as their sex, and you would agree these are sex men, into women's spaces and toilets. These are huge, drastic decisions that we've made as a society based on something that you yourself say we don't know. They're just nice things to think about. That's why I'm concerned, because I just think you're obviously a nice person and you are helping these people, but you would not be able to now go, gosh, what if I was wrong about all that all those years? What have I done?
Well, I'm a really nice person, and I do like helping people. But the one person that we didn't hear in your last minute, we talked about draconian, we talked about drastic, and we talked about all of that, and we don't know. But we didn't hear from the person who does know. And that's the person who lives it every day. And that's why that's the person that we should be listening to and asking about it. I don't know what it's like to be trans. I know what I've heard a lot of people tell me it's like to be trans. And that's why we have to ask the person. What does it feel like in your body, in your soul?
But we don't do that with other medicine.
Of course we do.
Well, no, but not with discovering if they've got cancer, for example. Maybe once the symptoms start to show, but you don't go, what's inside your brain? Oh, I've got a tumour in the middle of my brain.
A really good doctor would sit down and say, the cancer is a physical thing in your brain. How is it for you, and living in this world with maybe death approaching, living with that cancer? What's it like for you? What's it like for your family? How is your world going?
But they'd still have to do a scan.
Sure.
Because if they scanned and found nothing, and then the patient kept saying, I'm sorry, doctor, I know you can't see anything in there, but I'm telling you there's a tumour, the doctor would then be like, well, I'm sorry, mate, we've done the scans. There's nothing to show that. So that's the difficulty. I think I agree with you. We don't know. I'm not here to say we understand the human brain 100%. But let's go back to, you said you were going to clarify because the anorexic bit's thrown in, and I think that's similar to what we're talking about.
It comes up a lot, doesn't it? The thing is, right, so in the olden days, they used to, being gay was classified as a mental illness. Having syphilis, you were put away for having syphilis. And then not a little bit after that, we realised, hang on a minute, being gay is not a mental illness. And syphilis, you shouldn't lock someone up just because they've got syphilis, So we've made mistakes in life.
Yes.
A little bit later we classified being transgender as a mental illness. And then in 2011, we were like, no, it's not a mental illness. It is part of somebody. It's their identity. It's who they are. So being transgender is most definitely not a mental illness. Whereas having anorexia, which is an incredibly sad thing, is a mental illness. And that's the difference. So
But why?
Why?
Why is one a mental illness and not the other?
Well, what is a mental illness? A mental illness is an illness of the, I don't know what the mental health, isn't it? Your mental health is not well and it's a risk to you.
Well, is there any better example than feeling, even if they're right to feel this way, than feeling like there is something wrong with your body when there isn't?
Well, you think there isn't.
But they think because they're mentally ill.
And no, they're not mentally ill. And I can't have that one. It's just so offensive to say that transgender people think there's something wrong with their body because they are mentally ill. It's just
I think it's offensive to say that there's something wrong with their body. What a thing to tell
it's
people.
It's
either their body or their mind. Which one?
There's nothing wrong with them. There's nothing wrong with them.
Then why are we fixing it? Why are we cutting off their genitals?
Because that's what they want to do, to live their life in a happier way, to match their body with their identity.
I think even they should be saying, listen, I'm mentally ill. I want to get this changed to make me feel better.
I would really
Why is that
rather
offensive?
not. It's very offensive because we have declassified. We made a mistake.
Would you call an anorexic person mentally ill? I don't think that's offensive.
They do have a mental illness.
I would say to an anorexic person sitting here, I love you and support you as I would to a trans person. I think you have a mental illness right now.
Yeah, and you need help and support.
And I would say that to a trans person.
Well, I would find that very offensive.
I just want to clarify that I'm not intending to cause offence there, as I wouldn't to an anorexic person. I know you're taking it, and I appreciate that as well, but I'm just so you know that's not my intention.
Okay.
But I do think they're mentally ill. I
think that's sad.
I think it's sad. Well, they are sad.
No, affirmed they're happy.
I do agree with you on your point about mental illness because it is subjective. And it's something that we've changed over the years. Mental illness seems to be doctors just deciding there's an incongruence between the society that we have and that person's ability to fit into it. So if we had a society, just for the sake of argument, where like everybody was trans and it was part of being part of the society and it was part somehow of our evolution or who knows what, then I don't think it would be considered to be a mental illness. Often they talk about mental illnesses, I think, in terms of, look, does it actually interfere with your ability to live a normal life? That's what I understand a lot of this to be. Like you've got some sort of psychological issue, but it would only be a mental illness if it actually interferes with your ability to live a normal life.
Mental illness is very. There's books on it, and if you look at the contents, you have stress, you have anxiety, you have depression, you have schizophrenia, you have.
So
anorexia.
How can trans not fit in with those? And how can it be depressing? How can it be insulting? How can that be offensive?
Because it's not a mental illness, and being gay is not a mental illness. Being transgender is not a mental illness.
Gay's got nothing to do with it.
No, but we used to classify it as a mental illness, and we realised, oh my God, that was so offensive to gay people. And then we used to classify gender incongruence as a mental illness, and now we're realising, oh my goodness, that is so offensive.
But you accept
people.
that they're two different things, being gay and being trans.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So I feel like the argument, and I've heard this argument before, I feel like it's tantamount to we used to say this was a mental illness and we were wrong.
Yeah.
Therefore, anything that we say is a mental illness could be wrong, including feeling like you need to cut your genitalia off.
Well, I think we've probably exhausted the mental illness because I don't think we're going to agree on it. But I find it, and I apologise to trans people because it's not a mental illness.
I apologise to trans people who think I intended to offend them.
I don't think you intended to.
Yeah, but some might.
Some might.
But that's not my intention. I'm just trying to be logical, and maybe I'm too straight in that sense. And look, I mean, I mentioned the soul before. It does feel, sometimes I might argue with a religious person, and I can be quite, and I try not to because I don't want to alienate half my audience who are religious, and I respect them very much. But and I respect those trans people as well, and I feel sorry for them, and I think they're going through something very difficult. Let's call it that, something very difficult they're going through. Is that fair to say?
It doesn't have to be difficult.
Well, hang on. Cutting off, that's difficult even if society accepted that. Right? That's a big operation.
But you're looking at it from the outside. You're looking at it from your position, from your perception. You would think, and I would think, if I was doing that to me, it was a big operation. Well, we're missing the person who's saying, please, can you cut this off because this isn't right to me. Please, can you take the middle out and invert it and give me a vagina instead, because that would suit my identity much better.
But they don't. I mean, unfortunately, they don't get a vagina, do they?
Oh.
It's not a vagina.
Oh.
They have to continue to stretch it out for the rest of their lives. It was described by, well, more often detransitioners. I know you might say they only make up a small number, but they do exist. And detransitioners tend to say they had all sorts of problems, all sorts of issues. It wasn't what they were promised.
I think I only came across that view recently on Twitter, X, formerly known as Twitter. And I was not much gets me on there because... But, you know, when they were mocking someone's vagina, I was like, how cruel do you want to be? So you were XX chromosomes and you were born with a beautiful vagina, whereas that person's vagina had to be made. And now you're mocking it, saying, oh, your vagina's not as nice as my vagina. And I just thought, it's just the cruelest thing I read. I was really, really shocked at that view. I think, you know... We talk about beautiful bodies. We all want to be beautiful. We all want to have the most amazing body. And some bodies just aren't as beautiful as some other bodies. But to actually point that out, mock it, make fun of it, I just thought that was the cruelest thing I saw.
Well, you won't find me doing that, but I understand what you're saying. But okay, so for you, it's would you say that a trans woman is a woman?
Well, absolutely. Trans is an adjective. So
it's just
they are a woman. You can be a tall woman, you can be a big woman, you can be a happy woman, you can be a trans woman. Trans is just an adjective for woman.
If your husband were to get the change, would it make much difference? Would you be happy?
Well, I don't think Mike would do that, to be fair. But I mean, it's something I've thought about a lot. Not Mike, if you're listening, Mike, sorry. But you know, who is it? Is it the sex that you love? Is it the penis that you love, or is it the person that you love? Is you know, and you know, hopefully when people get married, they marry the person that they love. And obviously, some relationships go through difficulties when someone says, "Actually, I've been lying for a little bit of my life, and you thought I was a man, and actually, I've been hiding it for a very long time, and I'm a woman." And that's obviously there's difficulties to be had there. And it's not going to be easy. But I'm hoping you love that person. Sure, that's who you married.
But then and I'm sure you probably agree that you're weighing that up against 300,000 years of evolution, men and women being attracted to one another, the sex men and the sex women being attracted to one another, apart from gay people.
Well, I mean, I kind of think of it's more of a spectrum. Do you know, sometimes I wonder if we hadn't been at school, if we hadn't been, you know, say it wasn't like you're either homosexual or heterosexual. What if you were just given the freedom as a youngster when growing up just to say, don't put yourself in a box, just explore. Yeah. Then would there be a lot more people who had a go with a woman or a man, whichever way round it is, but actually because you weren't properly gay, that was that side, wasn't it, that you never actually explored, and only the really, really gay people actually did explore. And I wonder that if it's the same thing, this homosexuality and the heterosexuality, oh, I hate the labels. Why don't we just be free to have sex and have fun and explore our bodies and have the most amazing orgasms with whoever? Why do we have to go, I'm heterosexual and I'm only allowed to be with men? Don't like it.
It's an interesting thought, and I've had that before. I've wondered, like, what if I were brought up on an island of only men? And I didn't even know that there was such a thing as a woman. What might have happened and how might it have changed me and all of those things. And you do get people who seem to be more interested in sort of experimenting a little bit one way or another. And some people are like, oh gosh, no. And how much of that is societal? But I guess the difference here, we're talking about people's sexual preferences, which, you know, each to their own. And you don't need to prove it because they're doing it. You know, the act of doing it is evidence that they are honest about their attractions, you know, unless they were hiding that for some odd reason.
There are many heterosexual men who hide it.
We had the Elton John and George Michael things. So of course that's the case. But if somebody says, if a bunch of people, and it's not an insignificant number, start saying, listen, I'm a bloke and I'm attracted to men, we have no reason to, they're not lying to us. That's who they're attracted to, for, you know, whatever.
So we've just solved it then. So if you've got women over there who actually say, I'm not a woman, I'm a man, or a man over there saying, actually, I've got it wrong, I'm a woman. So we've solved it. Let them be. We've got, and do we have
I don't know
proof?
How you jump from one to the other.
Because you're like, well, obviously it's okay for them to be gay because they're doing it. Yeah. And I'm like, well, actually, obviously it's okay to be trans woman because they're doing it. There are so many beautiful, happy, wonderful trans women living their best lives. It's only us that seem to have a problem with it. Leave them alone and they're happy. And they are proof that it is because they are living that life.
Well, I don't know if I agree about leave them alone and they'll be happy. Well, I do agree with that, but I don't agree with, I mean, you've said yourself, I mean, the way things are going for trans people at the moment is not good.
No, it's
People
terrible.
are not fans of trans people. I mean, many people are and should be and all of those things, but they get a lot of abuse now and are really marginalized in a way that I think 15 years ago they weren't as much.
Yeah.
And I think many graphs I've seen point towards that.
Yeah.
And I think what it is that people are fed up of being told to believe black is white. And that it's as simple as that. I think as soon as trans people started, and it's only a few trans people really, I think many do just want to be left alone, but started saying, if I believe I'm a woman, I'm talking about men in general in this case, I literally am one, that will not fly. And so when you said earlier, you wish they had sort of come along at the same time as the gay people who came out, it wouldn't have, I mean, a lot of gay people would not have liked that. And I mean, an inordinate number of guests on my show have been gay, or are gay, because I think those are often the most outspoken about it, because they're saying, I do want to just be left alone. I do just want to go and do my thing without telling people black is white. And I think that's what's led to a decrease in support of trans at the moment.
Trans people.
Sure.
It's
Or trans as a phenomenon.
well, it's an adjective, so it's difficult. But yeah, black and white. No, we can't use that analogy because you can't. It's not black is white and black. You can't say black is white because it's not. White is white and black is black. But we're saying that it's kind of like, you know, you're saying if the trans people didn't get upset about being bullied, then they wouldn't bring it on themselves.
If
kind of thing.
No. If the trans people didn't start telling people, if I believe I'm a woman, I'm literally that. It's an example of good intentions. We all want to believe that's true. One of my favorite quotes was something along, who was it? Bollocks. I can't remember. But one of the philosophers in the last 100 years, Bertrand, what's his name? Bertrand Russell. You know, we need to go by truth. I'm paraphrasing, not what we wish were true or would be beneficial for society were it true. Because those are the times when we think we're all in a bit of a bubble and we think this is a morally correct thing because we're all right on, we're helping everyone. And later down the line, you go, gosh, that was actually pseudoscience. And whether it be the Nazi white supremacist stuff, whether it be the Stalinist kind of humans can work in a kind of, you know, communist society. We need to stick to truth no matter what. And I think it offends people's sensibilities when you say to them something that is so obviously not true. So of course that has reduced support for trans people. Of course it has.
But if it's so absolutely not true, that means basically we're saying you can't be born a man but actually be a woman.
No, yeah, of course not.
But so that means that gender reassignment in the Equality Act needs to be rubbed out.
Yes.
It's not true.
I think
we
so,
need
yeah.
to completely abandon the Gender Recognition Act.
I think so.
All the people who are transgender today, and I think the last poll, 262,000 in the UK said they were the ones that ticked the box to say that I was trans. So we'd have to say to all of those, sorry, we're not going to
We're
let
going to find a
you
better
be
way
trans
of helping
anymore.
you. Yeah.
I just think that that's really, really regressive. And you said earlier that you know, there's a most people would feel this way, and most people would say, or most gay people would say, no, we don't like it. And most people, it's not. It's a few very loud people who have, in the last decade, said, I don't understand this, I'm scared of it, and I'm going to make a big noise about it. And there's a lot of trans people who are suffering. But the majority of the population are like, why can't we just let people be?
So you don't think trans support has gone down dramatically the last few years?
I think the nasty anti-trans voices have got very loud. And of course they will have swayed some people. I think the majority of civilized human beings will say, I don't get it. Why don't we just let people be?
Is mine a nasty anti-trans voice?
Judging? Well, I did listen to some of your podcasts before I came on, and I'm like, well, he's got some views I probably disagree with.
But that's different to being a nasty anti-trans person.
I think so, absolutely.
But I think I'm a nice, ordinary person. But
you're one. You're only one, and I'm only one. We're going to talk about the whole population here. And again, we cannot leave out the trans people. It's like we're debating them without going, hello, would you like to come and join us at the table? Can we hear it from you?
I think it's a little bit like the anorexic issue. I think it's irrelevant, really. I mean, we do have to hear from them. You're right. We have to hear from them and say, how are you suffering? What's going on here? How can we speak to you? And I've spoken to countless detransitioners who said they wish that somebody had come to them and said, okay, we understand why you feel this way. Of course, you're not really a woman. So we're going to talk to you about why you're feeling that dysphoria, what's happened in your life to make you feel that way, and how we can keep you feeling as comfortable as possible, even if you don't feel great. I mean, Ritchie Herron, do you know of Ritchie Herron? Ritchie Herron, and well, I feel like in your, in your world, you should know about Ritchie Herron because he's one of the most famous detransitioners.
Well, I looked at your board over there and I'm like, I recognise those people, but I don't know their names. It's just not
well,
my,
one of them's
it's
Blaire
not
White,
my,
who's a trans person.
Yeah, I know that. I did see her. I think I was on Piers Morgan with her.
So Blaire is someone who knows that obviously he's not really a woman, and who says that it is, I believe he says it is a bit of a mental illness that he has.
I think her pronouns are she.
I think I said what, and he said he, but maybe I'd have to check.
Sure.
But either way, I would go with he, because I think, to me, that's my belief, and it's a protected belief, isn't it? Gender critical beliefs.
Protected by who?
That's what Maya Forstater helps to define. That's a protected belief in
Well,
work environments.
if we pulled that up now, you'd see the judge at the bottom of that Maya Forstater case saying, "Excuse me, this is not a license for you to go out and misgender people," and that is in that judgment. So no, that case did not for 1 minute say that it was okay to use the wrong pronouns for somebody.
My understanding is it is a protected belief.
Well, protected by who? By what? What do you mean?
Well, okay. Well, even if we accept, I mean, look, we can accept that you and I, both well-meaning, I'd like to hope we can both believe that of one another, have utterly separate beliefs. Firstly, about how best to help trans people, and secondly, about what pronoun is appropriate. So,
well, I'm like the pronoun that's appropriate is the pronoun that belongs to that person. There's only one person that gets to choose that.
Yeah. So the pronoun, the pronoun for Blaire White is he/him because he's a guy.
Well, I'm not talking about Blaire. I'm talking about because and actually.
No, but Blaire might say. I don't think Blaire does. But Blaire might say, I'm a she/her. I don't think Blaire does. And I would say that's absolutely fine with you. But I know you're a guy.
Okay. Well, personally, and I speak for many, many people, I think that it's humanly respectful to use the pronouns that somebody chooses, not what you want to choose for them. And also, you mentioned a minute ago that you'd spoken to countless detransitioners. Now, obviously, countless is a very big number, and I don't expect you've spoken to countless.
But many.
But I have spoken to thousands and thousands of transgender people. And you say that your small group of detransitioners are the ones that we should follow because they're the ones that didn't have a happy time.
You should at least be aware of their testimonies. You should at least be aware of who the big names in this.
Not the name. Why
well, because they're the most prominent people.
No, I talk about the community. I talk about people. I don't.
The name. Ritchie Herron is a person.
Well, it's just because they've got a massive following or something. I don't even know who they are. But,
because it was a huge story in the culture, and it was a huge moment of a person, and it was a dramatic thing to wake up, look down, and find that his genitalia had been cut off. Well, because he was pushed by an ideological.
Pushed?
Yeah,
by who?
Well,
did they pin him down and say, "I'm cutting it off now"? You sure? I don't think so.
Well, I think he was, as we say, he was suffering from the mental illness, which makes him think he is in the wrong body. That's a terrible thing. It's a terrible affliction.
How did they cure the mental illness?
How did they? Well, certainly not by cutting off his willy. I mean, it was the worst thing that could have happened to him.
So is he still mentally ill now or not?
I believe he would probably say he is. Yeah. Unless he's come to grips with things.
He needed to have
therapy.
He does.
But the therapist.
But I don't think that we should I personally don't think that we should base every other transgender person's life and available choices and medical options on, what was his name? Ritchie Herron. Ritchie. I don't think that one person gets to dictate all of this.
No, there are many others as well. But I think we need to be aware of the prominent cases.
Yeah, and we need to be aware of the prominent cases who are trans as well. And actually, I think the latest statistic was like 3% of people regret their gender-affirming care, but that's 97% of people who didn't reject it. So why do we have to go with the 3% of big voices? What about the 97% of people who are, "Thank you, I am now living my happier life. Thank you for accepting me. Thank you for not misgendering me. Thank you for affirming me. Thank you for understanding that, okay, I looked like I've got a bloke's body, but actually I'm a woman."
There are many reasons, I think. And I think one is that 3% figure is, so Ritchie Herron's an example of this. He went back and complained time after time after time to doctors and said, I didn't expect this. This isn't what I wanted. Why did you push me into this? I regret this. But he isn't listed as somebody who regrets their transition. They do. I mean, let's say this is what I said to you before, like, because you've gone so far down this path now, and doctors who have actually, like surgeons who have cut off people's gender, it is a huge thing to do to somebody. To then admit you're wrong is almost impossible for a human being to do. So people come back all the time and say, I'm not happy with this. And the doctors go, yes, you are. You're fine. You've just got OCD. That's what Ritchie was told. And that's what countless others have been told.
This is that countless word again, but I don't know.
Well, I can't count all the people in the world who transition and regret their transition. That would be countless. I can't count that high.
Well, you said you'd spoken to countless people.
I have. You've got to remember that we're in different circles, right? So it's not
yeah.
beyond the realm of possibility. I've spoken to thousands of or countless.
Anyway,
well, how high can I count?
I don't know.
I probably can't count in terms of remembering the number of people I've spoken to. I wouldn't be able to count higher than 100 or so. And I would say over the years, especially when speaking at places like GenSpect, I've met countless detransitioners or people who are unhappy with their transition.
Okay, if that's countless to you, that's a lot.
I think we still haven't gotten to the nub of what is, someone says to you, this is my first question as well, I'm a woman, and I understand, okay, it is more complicated than people want to let on in many respects, okay, but what would you say are the key characteristics to being a woman?
Well, I think the simplest way that I've ever described it is if you go into a room and say, right, would all the women put their hands up, please? Those who put their hand up are those who are identifying as a woman. Otherwise, why would they not put their hand up?
Well, because they might.
But what I don't want to get kind of drawn into is the fact that defining a woman as someone who likes pink or wears a skirt or has lipstick, because we left aside those gender stereotypes.
So why do they then start wearing pink and getting long hair and wearing lipstick? So many trans people. How many trans people who are men changed the genitals, right, got the willy off, and then just continued walking around like blokes?
Well, they're not blokes, so they don't walk around like blokes.
Yeah, so what do they do?
But so not all women wear skirts. Not all trans women wear skirts.
No.
Not all women wear red lipstick. I don't. And not all trans women wear red lipstick. Not all women wear high heels. And not all trans women. The spectrum is the same. I could go on in all the attributes of a woman, but we don't do that. We don't have women stay at home wearing lipstick, serving the husband anymore. We just don't do that anymore. But the same, in my experience of talking to many, many thousands of trans people, is that the spectrum is the same. Those who like to be flamboyantly female in their affect.
Okay, so there's something. I'm just trying to get something. Flamboyantly female in their affect.
A few women are very flamboyantly female in the way that they present, but that's trans women and cis women.
But there has to be something. But if somebody is not a woman by sex, if they're a woman by sex, they're already counted as, okay, that's woman. If they are not and they would like to be, we need something to hang on to. We need something to go, oh, that's what they were missing.
Well, you mentioned it earlier, right? So there's no scan. There's no brain scan that's going to do it. There's no blood test that's going to do it. There's no gender test that you can take to say you're a woman enough. Good, which is good. Thank goodness for that. But if somebody says, do you know what I mean? You've been saying that I'm a man all these years, and it just doesn't fit with what society's portrayal of woman, living as a woman, being a woman is.
So then we are going back to those stereotypes.
Yeah.
So you said you didn't want to define it as, well, long hair and fingernails and stuff, but ultimately that is what that is. No,
because there are many cisgender women who don't have long hair and long
No, I agree with that. That's why I think it's so useless as a descriptor of woman.
It is, yeah, absolutely.
And yet, for a man who says he wants to be a woman, I'm still struggling to see.
There isn't a man who wants to be a woman. It doesn't. That's the bit that doesn't exist. You can't have a man who wants to be a woman. You either identify as a woman or you don't.
Even outside of trans, there could just be a guy who thinks, I'd fancy being a woman.
Well, okay. Well, that's make believe.
But this is why. Well, yeah. I mean, the idea that a man can be a woman is make believe, I think.
Well, that goes back to that early question: do we accept that gender incongruence is a thing? Do we accept that being transgender is a thing? And it is a thing. I'm going to have to win on that one. We could argue for as long as you like, but it is a thing. Sure. And so once we've got over it is a thing, that means that there are some people who the world thought were men who are actually women. It's quite basic, this kind of like line of,
Well, it's because it's essential though to the whole thing. I mean, I find, so I'm not, as I said before, I'm not religious, but it makes more sense to me. I don't believe in the stories, but the story is, how did the earth start? We don't know. Maybe some sort of god fella did it, and he made man, got his rib out, made woman. That's the Christian religion anyway. And that's the story. I get it. I don't believe in it. I don't think that happened. I don't know what happened. With the trans thing, we're going, this is a man, and it often is men who want to be women or young girls who want to be boys, right? But this is a man who wants to be a woman. Great. Well, what's a woman? And I'm not getting to that second line, which you would get in the Bible, because God said to Abraham, okay, we've got the explanation. And I'm afraid that to make such drastic interventions in people's lives, whether the people who we're doing surgeries on or women whose spaces we're invading, or just playing with the truth, those who can convince you of absurdities, can make you commit atrocities. These are all very dangerous things to implement in our society without real strong evidence that that man actually is a woman. And I don't think you've been able to give that evidence that that man is a woman, because you can't even tell me what characteristics that would mean.
Just ask that person.
That's not enough.
Well, it's not enough for you. But it's enough for trans people. It's enough. Trans people, all they want to do is say, if you want to put me in a category of man and woman, can you just ask me, please, rather than you all debate whether I'm a man or a woman.
Why is it different to anorexia?
Give me a label. No, we've done that one.
But you haven't explained why that's different, except for, because we've decided one's a mental illness and the other one isn't.
Yeah, but it's like, well, let's go back to the trans people then. It's like, please, can you stop labeling me as mentally ill? Because I'm not mentally ill. I'm just Sally or Brian or whatever.
And if an anorexic person tells you that, what do you say?
Well, the thing is, anorexic people are mentally ill. And I'm a doctor. I've worked with anorexic people. It's a tragic, and I think, there will be people listening here who have people with anorexia in their life at the moment. It's extremely tragic.
Correct.
It is extremely life-threatening. And I don't think that we should use that as an analogy.
Why not?
Because it will be. I'm thinking about the mums and dads out there who currently have an anorexic person in their life. It's awful, and
I know people with going through that. It's terrible.
It's awful.
It's a terrible mental illness. Listen, I had a brush with mental illness myself as a teenager. I had obsessive compulsive disorder, but very strong, really strong, and it interfered with my ability to live my life. And again, that's where that came from before. My suggestion of a mental illness is so sort of the idea of what we classify as mental illness is so subjective and it moves, and it's so vague that people would say, well, look, does it interfere with your ability to live a normal, happy life? If it does, you've got a bit of a mental illness. If it doesn't, then you've got OCD, but you're fine. Get on with it.
Yeah, I think we have to be careful about the we that you just described there. When we look at someone with mental illness, it's like who are we?
Well, yeah, I'm agreeing with you on that.
Now there are medics who are there to help people who have mental illness, who are, like you say, suffering from it, to get better, because we don't want people to be ill. We want people to be better, healthy.
Yeah.
And if OCD in someone's life is affecting their ability to be happy and live, then we doctors need to do something about it. But it's when society or politicians come in and think that they have the power to suddenly start having an impact on your OCD or your mental illness over there, you over there. I mean, it's like, whoa, hang on a minute, give that person some space. That's their life. Sure,
but also parents and parental figures and society to an extent, because I'm a bit of a libertarian myself. I don't want too much of the kind of nanny state. To an extent, they are there to look out or look behind the next corner for people and parents in particular with their own children. You're supposed to look around the corner for your children to see what's next. This is another point, because I've heard you've said children as young as 11, I think, can make this kind of life-changing decision. Most parents won't let their kids who are 11 or 13. When I was 13, I called my mum and said, can I get an ear piercing? And she said, she went mental. And then I didn't tell her I'd actually already done it. So I was like, oh shit, and then I had to take it out and hide it. It was a whole thing. And I think that's quite a common story for 13-year-olds. We're rebellious and whatever. Thank God I didn't do it. Thank God I didn't get a tattoo when I wanted one when I was 13, and all those kinds of things. How can an 11-year-old know to have their genitals taken off?
Well, you see, it's the examples that you give. There's no 11-year-old in the world that's ever had their genitals taken off because of gender incongruence. It just doesn't work like that. But ask me, can an 11-year-old or a 10 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4-year-old understand themselves and their identity and whether they are a boy or a girl, yes, they can.
And that's when they go about having puberty block. When I was 11, I thought could be a girl, I could be a dinosaur. Yeah, all sorts of things. Every day I had a very active imagination. So I was able to convince myself of all sorts of things. Sometimes I thought I was talking to God, just having a conversation. There are adults who think they're doing that.
Yeah.
Sometimes I thought I was a dinosaur. I often thought I could fly, I would jump across the room. I would think if I blinked, I would disappear. Maybe I was a bit younger for that, not 11. Those kinds of things. So the idea, 11-year-olds,
Yeah.
and puberty blockers, they do make a difference to someone's life.
And that's why it's so important that we don't listen to odd people. I'm not calling you odd, of course. But
you can though. I'm not. I don't like. I get
when
that
I
you
say no, but when I say odd, I mean the odd person in the street. I mean like singular
see,
people,
yeah.
not odd people.
Lay people.
Yeah. And when you listen to them and say, well, listen, I don't get it because when I was a little boy, I thought I was going to be a cat or a dinosaur or an astronaut. And it's like, that's why we don't let people like you.
11-year-olds. I don't still think I was a cat.
No, but can I tell you what the difference is, right?
Yeah.
That kid we'll talk about the 11-year-old, that kid doesn't wake up one day and go downstairs and say, Mum, I think I'm a boy. They for many years, as many years as you can remember, have said, stop calling me girl, I'm a boy. And it's very different from just saying I'm going to be a cat or I can fly or I can
I think it's actually it's more egregious in many examples actually, because what's really happening is the mother or father, some sort of Munchhausen by proxy syndrome, is saying, no, but you can be a boy if you want. We will love you if you're a boy.
It's again, that's why we shouldn't let odd people,
lay people,
be dictating this.
Said that with lay people, I get that. So we can look at the evidence, and it's always going to be disputed. But is it nice? Nice is evidence. Nice. Review for the NHS used in the CAS and UK policy found no statistically significant improvement in gender dysphoria, mental health, body image, or psychosocial functioning versus no treatment. This is about having puberty blockers, and rated the quality of evidence low or very low for all of these outcomes. Can you name a single randomized controlled trial in under 18s showing clear mental health benefit from blockers versus no blockers?
We don't need to name them individually, because what WPATH did in their Standards of Care version 8 is that they looked at every single paper that has ever been done, and they spent 2 years on it. They looked at every single research paper, and they had gender specialists, they had endocrinologists, psychiatrists, psychologists, pediatricians, and they analysed all the evidence, whether it's good quality evidence, poor quality evidence, and their finding was that gender affirming care does improve mental health and physical health.
Okay, because most of these surveys and things show that there hasn't been an improvement.
Yeah, but you see, the trouble is it's who's putting together the report, because it's very easy unfortunately in medicine to pick the ones that give you the answer that you want. It's very easy to do that, and that's why you need to have two things. You need to have a very big review, and it needs to be peer reviewed, and that means, for people who don't know, that it's not just these guys' opinion. It gets put over there to a separate load of people, and they have to approve it too. So you can find any paper to fit your story if you want it to.
But this is a problem. So it sounds like all you're going off is kids are telling you that they think they're born in the wrong body.
Or the WPATH with all the experts and all the evaluation of the research.
Before the
experts,
evidence. Yeah. But I quite like having some experts. I know there are fringes on the left and the right. You said before the experts, did you say? You trust the WPATH before the experts?
No. The evidence is put before put in front of the.
Right.
But when I say before, not time-wise, I mean like put before the experts, and the experts evaluate it.
It's strongly contested though, and it's a big thing to do by pretty much everyone. I just said to you, NICE is evidence.
NICE haven't done it. They didn't review gender affirming care. CAS did. I think that's
and it was used in CAS. NICE's surveys were used in CAS.
NICE didn't have they did puberty blockers in 2020.
Right. Well, that's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
And found no statistical. So they did do it. So I'm just saying.
Shall I tell you why? It might be a bit technical for your listeners, but I'll tell you why. And
Okay, don't go too long into it, though.
no, I'll give you 1 minute on it, right? So if you give a gender dysphoria, so if you have a transgender kid who is really struggling because their body doesn't match their identity, and you give them puberty blockers, okay, it stops them developing. But it doesn't actually help them develop the other way. So if you measure, and this is what NICE did, so they measured, okay, did the kids get better when you gave them puberty blockers? And it's like, no. But what they didn't go on to do was do the evaluation of the research is the next bit, which is when you give them hormones, so they start developing in the right way, and that's when the mental health improves.
Why do you, I mean, again, this is all disputed, isn't it? And as you said, it depends who's running the experiments.
Disputed by who?
Why do you think so many celebrities have got? I guess the what people think is that this is a fashion. Primarily, there's a small percentage of people who have what I believe is a mental illness. What you would say is they were just born in the wrong body, but mostly this is a fashion. Huge number of celebrities, as 15 years ago they were adopting children from Africa, today they've got trans kids. Like some of them have got like 2 or 3 that are all trans. Is there? Does that concern you? There must be some social contagion element to it. That doesn't discount the theory, but does that concern you?
Well, I remember being at school and someone saying to me that that when being gay was just kind of becoming visible, someone said, I reckon there's going to be 1 in 10 people are gay. And we were all like, oh, no way. Oh my God, that's amazing. And I think what we will see, if I'm alive in 20 years' time to see it, is that we're going to see the same kind of numbers.
Well, it's going down, though, those who are saying they're trans. It's rapidly, the last couple of years.
Brave enough to put your hand up in today's society and say, I'm transgender.
It went up with the fashion, especially with the celebrities. And the last 2 years, it's just shot down.
Yeah, because look at the bullying. And the
bullying was always there.
No. We agreed this at the beginning. The bullying has got a lot worse. But 1 in 10 people at the moment, they're talking about nearly 1%. So that's 1 in 100. Now, how many celebrities are there? I think it's going to be closer to 1 in 10, 1 in 20.
But you must go. Some of these guys, there is a bit of a fashion.
Why would you? What fashion to do what? You think their kid's going to go, "Hey, I'm trans just to be cool for you, Dad," just so that you can look more cool on the telly?
That's exactly what kids would do. Yeah.
No, I don't.
Kids are exactly like that. Every kid, it's not just that. They do all sorts of things. You see some like right-wing 5-year-old kid or a left-wing 5-year-old kid repeating stuff their parents say, about politics. And they go, oh, look how wonderful my kid is. They're just parroting stuff their parents say. It's the only way to get love from them. Others will go into showbiz because they think their parents will only love them if they, you agree with this, right? That is something. Kids are very malleable in that sense. They want to impress their parents.
I've never met a kid that's put being transgender on, like pretended to be trans. It's not a cool thing to be.
I think they've convinced themselves that they're trans because it's what their parents.
The parents or the kids.
The children have convinced themselves.
Well, all the children that I've met who are transgender, I've never met one who was convinced to do it by their parents or themselves.
I've seen loads of examples of that. I've seen all kinds of the sharenters, the parents who share online, all kinds of families online on Twitter, YouTube, whatever. And from day dot, you like a Barbie. We think you might be a bit of a girl, actually. And that going on for 5-10 years, we know how easy it is to manipulate children.
It doesn't work like that.
It does.
I know. I don't know what you watch, but that's not what I watch.
Well, I'll show you it later. You were convicted in 2018 for running a private gender clinic without proper registration.
Yeah.
What was that? Because I guess people might be watching going, look, this is someone who wants to do good. She means well. She's trying to help, but there isn't any evidence for this stuff. And she's just going out and actually doing more harm than good. How do you respond to that?
Okay, I respond to that. I am a good person. I do want to do good.
I said.
Yeah, I'm just going through your list. There is lots of evidence for it. Lots and lots of it if you look in the right places. I got, and I'm not out on a limb at all in what my belief is in gender affirming care. I'm not out on a limb at all. I'm with the other gender experts in the field. It's just that we don't get listened to very often, and actually they're too scared to come on here. Well, not all of them, but
and they should do. They should come on.
Yeah. And it's a very tricky arena. It's a tricky world, and what I wasn't ready for when I stumbled into it in 2015 and made my little website, to share the knowledge that I was learning. I wasn't ready for the persecution that I was just about to face, and it was pretty awful. But once you've gone so far, you can't go back. No, I didn't really want to.
Once you've gone so far, you can't go back. That's how I feel. That's what I think is the issue.
On my career, I'm talking about.
Even so. Even so, but once you've gone so far, I mean, you've got to a point where you've pushed for these things that have changed
I
lives.
don't push for these things. I listen to people, and I've met so many transgender people when I was a doctor, and now in my work now. I totally understand gender incongruence. I think they're beautiful people, and I think that they have a horrific time at the moment by being bullied by some of the online culture. I think it's tragic.
How much room is there in your mind for doubt that you might be wrong?
Well, the thing is, right, you see, is going back to that very fundamental question, does gender incongruence exist? Yes, it 100% exists.
Yes.
So therefore, I can't go back on that because it exists. Should we allow people to live their life as they want to? Absolutely.
So no doubt?
No doubts, no.
Because it's kind of a trick question what I've asked you, isn't it? I mean, there's no right answer, because if you say there's doubt, it's like, oh, there's doubt, is there? And you'll do this. But if you say there's no doubt, it's like, oh, right, is that like a zealot?
You'll never get a doctor to say 100%, and maybe...
But you just did. You said no doubt.
I do, and I absolutely 100%
See,
have no doubt.
That to me is worrying.
Okay, well, you can let that worry you, but it doesn't worry me.
There should be room for doubt. There should be room for...
It's like, does cancer exist? I have 100% knowledge cancer exists. Does diabetes exist? Yes, 100%. I could list them all. Does gender incongruence exist? 100%, yes.
Well, fair enough.
And the question is actually, what do we do about it? What do we do about your cancer so that we can help you live the best life? What do we do about your diabetes so we can help you live your best life? You know what I'm going to say next.
Sure. Well, look, we've looked mostly at that side of things from the trans person's perspective. With all of these issues, any kind of civil rights issue, typically, there are two sides, and one side we go, well, even mad stuff like slavery, right? There's the side of the slaves, and then there's the side of the slave owners, and they're going, well, we want to have slaves, and you go, well, you'd like that, but unfortunately that we've decided that's wrong and you're out. So there's always two sides, but we can decide, this is a more complicated, in my opinion, one than slaves and slave owners. This is women who want to have space, women who want to be able to go to the toilet or whatever without worrying a man comes in. Many of those women might have been abused or violated in some such way. And many of them don't want men of their sex in their bathrooms. What do you say to those women?
Well, I think that's fine. Then we're okay because they're women, so they can go in the women's space. So there's nothing to worry about yet. Women, if you make a space for women, all women are allowed.
But you said the sex is different.
We're talking about women identities. If you make that, we're not talking about, well, if you want to put on the bathroom only penises allowed in here, then don't put male and female. Don't put skirt and trousers. Put penis or vagina.
But why do you think we do separate those two bathrooms?
I don't think there's any need to at all, and many countries don't. It's just that the UK is so up its own, that thing.
Would you not? Do you don't think there's a bit of a patriarchy in the UK?
What
in the sense
do you mean by that?
That men are quite dominant. I'm not suggesting all men, but men.
I think women
dominant.
Are scarily dominant, and
actually, that's a fair point.
I think
get rid of them.
When I look at with female-male relationships, I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, those women.
When did we get to be so strong?
Bloody hell. They are awful. Good point. I take that back. However, that's a joke, people. Everyone's going to get upset with me. However, in terms of physical violence, and it's a fair point you make as well, there are a lot of couples where the woman is physically violent, of course, but by virtue of being much weaker than men, significant. Do you want to do an arm wrestle?
Well, no, I always lose when I do that.
Yes, I bet.
But if I've had a glass of wine, I win. But
by virtue of being significantly weaker, there's much less concern about how that might end up, and particularly less sexual violence from women to men than men to women. That is why we separate them. So it's about the sex. It's not about gender.
Do you know what? I really worry about this, that we're continuing to portray men as sexual predators, people who are violent, people who are able to overcome the weak, feeble woman, a man who, just because he has a penis, might use it against a woman. I'm like, we need to leave that. Is that? I have one daughter. I have 4 sons and 1 daughter. I never brought my daughter up to be scared of men. I've brought my daughter up to love men, to enjoy men, to enjoy relationships and boys and what have you.
Sure.
This perpetuating thing that men are scary. No, thank you. Let's leave that behind.
Well, it's a small number of men.
Yeah.
But even if it's 1% of men, if you put that in a population of, 35 million men in this country or 30 million men, that's a hell of a lot of scary men. Even
do
if
you think
1%.
But do you think that is it their penis that makes that 1% scary? Is it their brain? Is it their physical size, because I've seen some pretty, if I haven't met any serial killers, but when you watch them on Netflix, they're not big. They're odd characters.
Yeah, they are. But they can overpower any woman, and women do get attacked.
But they don't
in
do it by
bathrooms.
overpowering, do they? They do it by wily stuff. That's what I've seen on the telly.
That's true.
But do you know what I mean? But I really, really think that we shouldn't be teaching our children of today to fear men. I don't fear men. I love men.
I like men, but I feel there is a percentage who will.
Of course, there's a percentage of everybody. There's a percentage of black people who commit crime. There's a percentage of men who commit crime. A percentage of women who commit crime. Percentage of women who are complete and utter nags for their husbands.
Yeah,
it's me included. But sorry, Mike. But that's just the way. But we shouldn't be portraying men as dangerous, and it's not right.
No, look, I agree with that. However, I also understand that a lot of women feel safer going into their own bathrooms.
A lot of women. No, there's just a few, and they're like, "Oh my goodness, I don't want that person in my toilet." And I'm like, "Well, go and find a different toilet then. Why should every single other trans woman or a woman that doesn't quite fit your picture be excluded just because you might be scared? If you want to go and find another toilet to pee in, go on then. But don't. Why should you exclude all those? I don't think that's right.
Go find a women's toilet.
Go find it.
That's what they have done. And now there's blokes in them.
They're not blokes. Oh, let me just go back. If we accept
But you said that blokes, we shouldn't be scared of blokes
incongruence-
anyway. So forget the trans thing. You wouldn't mind blokes just going into women's toilets.
Well, they wouldn't be a bloke going into a woman's toilet. I'm saying don't segregate. Don't put woman on the. Why don't we take all the signs off the doors and say this one has a cubicle in it? So put a picture of a cubicle. This one has a seated toilet. This one has a squatting toilet. This one has a urinal. Let's say which toilet it is in there, and make sure the toilets are accessible for all.
Yeah.
But if you make a woman's space, you're going to have to say, in my book, when I'm Prime Minister, that all women are allowed in there. All women.
I agree completely.
What?
All women should be allowed into women's toilets.
Good. There we are.
I couldn't agree more.
Including trans women, tall women, short women.
Including
trans
tall women, short women,
trans women,
and men.
I don't think men should go in.
I agree then. Good. At least we're not talking past each other. So I've got another question for you, but where can people follow you and all of that?
Where can they follow me? Well, it's kind of at Helen Webberley everywhere. But
Okay.
I love chatting on Instagram. I love chatting on TikTok.
Get some arguing with people. Yeah.
No, I don't argue. I share the love.
Go and argue with Helen Webberley. We'll put the link below. Who's a heretic you admire?
Well, you mentioned the 11-year-old, but actually it was a 12-year-old who changed my professional career forever by just saying firmly and strongly to anyone who wouldn't listen, I am a boy, I am a boy, I'm a boy. And he was the guy that made my professional life go rocky, and I would never change a minute of him. He's now a beautiful 20-year-old man, and he's my heretic.
You know what?
I'm going to ask his mum whether I can send pictures. You show me.
Well, that's the thing, because the women who try to look like men look really good.
It's not about how we look. We left that behind years ago.
Well, you just said it. You're going to send me pictures. That's why.
And he's the most beautiful man in the world.
He's not a man.
More beautiful than you.
Yeah. Well, that's fine. I understand that, but and look, I think we can agree. Like, I hope that person's as happy as possible.
He is.
Good. People, Helen Webberley, at Helen Webberley. That's how you can go and argue with her. Don't be profane. All right. We don't need. It's not. What's the point? Have some constructive dialogue, and that link's down below. Hit the like button and keep watching this channel.